I'm Indy Neidell.
I'm Spartacus Olsson.
And I'm Anna Deinhard.
And this is a live out of the Foxholes. This is something we thought would be fun to do, sort of in addition to the fireside chats where we field your questions live, right?
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, Eric Johnson. Hello, I noticed you in the comments, so hey to you.
Hey, Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson asks, unless I missed it, you never mentioned anything about Thailand changing sides and bailing on Japan. Why did they do this?
Definitely you. Yeah.
Okay. You're laboring under misapprehension, Eric Johnson. Okay, 4 or 5 hours after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Japan invaded Thailand. Now, Thailand had called themselves neutral after the Franco-Thai War, which you didn't ask about, so I'm not going to talk about. But Thailand was neutral. Japan invaded, and Thailand said, oh, concessions. And Japan said, okay, cool, great. Now, so Thailand allowed Japan to do a lot. And Thailand was given stuff in return for this. They were given parts of Laos, Cambodia, the Shan states, bits of Burma, bits of Malaya. Territory that they actually kept until the end of the war. Okay, they have to be very clear about this. Plaek Pibul Songram, who was running Thailand at the time, he knew which way the wind was blowing. But when the Allies began bombing Bangkok, I think it was the end of January, it might have been the beginning of February 1942, he declared war on the Allies, right? So he was an ally of Japan, but it wasn't even like Germany and Italy, it was like this. The Phibun government fell in 1944, but it was not, even at the end of the war, Thailand didn't turn on Japan. I don't know where you get that idea. Thailand didn't want to fight with anybody. That was the whole point. They kept that territory. They did try to give the Shan states back to Britain, say, oh, you can have them back after the Phibun government fell in 1944, and Winston Churchill refused because they were, at war. Now here's the thing, post-war, what do you do with this co-belligerent with Japan? How do you deal with them who were really forced into a position, they wanted to be neutral, and what are you going to do? I don't know what I would have done. I wouldn't have done maybe what Phibun did, I don't know. But they were told, they gave back that territory so they could, in exchange for them being allowed to join the United Nations, 1946, right? So the idea that they were, a Japanese ally and then turned on Japan is false. They were basically doing what they felt they had to do. They did get a lot of territory for a bunch of years out of it, but they did not give any of that territory up until the end of the war. They were still there until the end of the war. Yeah.
So the next question is from Robin Ganaway. If the European war had continued into the summer of 1945, did the Allies have plans to use the atomic bomb against Nazi Germany? And if so, which German cities were to be targeted?
Okay, so let's get a couple of things straight here. The actual finish date of the Manhattan Project was extremely unclear until more or less the very last minute. It was only in May, by that time the war in Europe was already over, that there was an indication that they would have a bomb that was finished sometime in the next couple of months. Eventually it turned out to be in July. On the 16th of July they had the Trinity test and the bomb went off. So this is very much a hypothetical, in as much as that it was even hypothetical to them at the time if they would even have a bomb at any time soon. It could also be that the bomb would not be ready until 46. It was all unclear until May, when they discovered, okay, we can actually do this now. So, but the very few people who were actually in the know of the idea of dropping a bomb in the first place very much entertained the idea of dropping it on Germany if Germany had not given up by the time the bomb was ready, whenever that would be. And the target was actually mainly Berlin. There were discussions about the Ruhr area as well, because of the industry there and punishing it that way. But Berlin was the main target. But again, this was a huge hypothetical, because They didn't know if they'd have a bomb. And how many people knew? Well, a handful in the political arena and a couple of thousand involved with the actual Manhattan Project.
Do you know my favorite hypothetical around the Manhattan Project and around the things that built the bomb? Is when they had the first atomic pile, in the University of Chicago underneath that. And the guys are like, well, there's like a 1% chance that it might ignite the atmosphere and kill all life on Earth. I'm like, you're going with it.
Like, you know what Oppenheimer's answer to that was? Probably not. And the reaction to that was, probably?
Probably. Yeah, but if it happens, we had a good run.
Ridovik Ubadaya, why did American firebomb Japanese cities when they had managed to largely cut off supplies to Japan in 1944?
Well, okay, so now I want to answer this, and I could tell from you that we both want to answer this. I'll tell you what. Let's do a little play, okay?
Okay.
No, I'm gonna. We'll just play off each other, okay?
Just follow. Yeah.
Hey. We want to invade Japan, but there's like a lot of people there.
Yeah. And what about that cottage industry putting out all of those enormous amounts of armaments?
Do you know what? Maybe we should soften them up a little bit.
How could we do that?
Well, their houses are made of paper. I think that's pretty much the answer to your question. It's horrible. It is. I mean, we're laughing, but it's
not funny. It killed almost 1 million people, but the numbers vary. But let's say at least 400,000 people, maybe as many as 850,000 people. It's a tragedy. In difference to the German, the bombing of German cities, the bombing of Japan actually had effect, because it did destroy that cottage industry, and it softened up the ability of the Japanese to resist a potential invasion to the point of where an invasion wouldn't even have been very difficult.
And now you mentioned 1944, and this is important. There was no guarantee that the atomic bombs were going to work, or maybe they just were duds. The plans for stepping up the bombing of Japan were like for October 1945, had it gone that long, that month was supposed to be more than the entire year of 1944, just that month. And by January of 1946, it was supposed to be double that, because the U.S., which would be leading the invasion of Japan, was terrified of the fight to the death mentality they had encountered in the Pacific Islands, and the fact that there was still an awful lot of weaponry and a lot of people and a lot of army still unfought, and anticipating losses of several 100,000 of their own, at least, by an invasion. So this was the bombings that we got were horrible enough, but had the war gone on, the bombings in late 1945 and early 1946 would have been beyond anything this world has ever seen.
And Curtis LeMay, who takes over 20th Bomber Group, Bomber Command, he actually only really starts his campaign in the late spring of 1945. So most of these casualties happen in only a few months. And because of a variety of reasons, the Japanese, although they are softened and they are on the verge of giving up because of this, failed to do it because of diplomatic misunderstandings at the end of the day, and because of internal squabbling inside of Japan that leads them to just drag their feet behind them and do that. So by the time the atomic bombs are dropped, the decision has already fallen on the Japanese side, already before the bombs are dropped, that they are going to give up. But they're trying to do it, and they're not doing it very well. And then when the bombs drop, of course, that puts the nail in the coffin of any idea of resistance, even among the hardened ones. So, yeah. Well, that was it for today. If you want your questions answered in a future episode of these, please head on over to TimeGhost.tv.
That's it.
TimeGhost.tv/community, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, something like that. There's a link down there somewhere. You'll find it. Better still, if you want a guaranteed answer to your question, become one of our officers at the TimeGhost Army by joining us at timeghost.tv or patreon.com. And we will be there to answer your questions at some point in time.
I love that. And we will be there to answer your questions. It might be at your house, maybe when you're having a party. Anna and Sparty and Astrid and Anna and Sparty and Astrid and I. Yeah, well, we'll turn up. Sebastian, Clara might turn up. I mean, we'll expect free booze and stuff, right? but yeah, let us know when your parties are, because you never know, we might be there, right? We like a good party.
Absolutely.
So, and we don't only talk about World War II. All right, anyway, Excelsior!